So, Matt, if you could go ahead and start getting Sean on, just to give a quick overview of what happened. Is basically he was incarcerated, and during his time in solitary, he watched an elderly man be thrown into a cell and, for all intents and purposes, forgotten for dead. And and there are people at fault, and they're not being held responsible. And I just finished reading his letter that he wrote on January 26th of 2014, and it was a hard read. And I've been looking all over NJ Weedman's page and reading these articles, and it's pretty gruesome in all reality, and it's really sad. Do we have him up yet there, Matt?
No, he's going to try to call me. I'm trying to add him to the group call. For some reason, Skype's going, no. Don't
okay,
know
well,
why.
all right, have him as soon as he gets in touch with you. But I think we got him. Sean, are you there?
I am here. What's up, guys?
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Now, I was just giving a quick overview about what you witnessed, and I didn't get into too much detail. It was a real quick synopsis. But first off, tell us who you are,
sure.
and how you came to be in this situation, as much as you can talk about it.
Yeah, no problem at all. Let me just get set up here. Once again, my name is Sean Terzansky, 29, live in Maple Shade, New Jersey. That's basically the suburbs of Philadelphia, right across the bridge. I grew up here, spent most of my life here. I went to prep school for 4 years in the area before going away to college, where I actually initially majored in political science and criminal justice. Was applying to a couple local police departments, things of that nature. No one was hiring. Budgets were tight, so I actually started a business in Philadelphia in the parking transportation industry. Did really well with that for about 4 years. The money kind of led to a certain lifestyle, if you will. Started partying a lot, and the partying led me to the dark side. I don't want to comment on that too much, but
good times, but bad decisions.
Exactly. A lot of it was frivolously spent, and on December 9th, I was charged with shoplifting, which ultimately landed me in Burlington County Jail. I'm not proud of it. It's actually really embarrassing, but I guess it could be worse, all considered.
Yeah, all considering, that. I mean, so now, this letter that I read about that you wrote was in January 26th. Were you still currently incarcerated when you wrote that?
Yeah, I was actually incarcerated from December 9th all the way till March 5th.
Wow. So yeah, that's a long time for shoplifting. I mean, I know that, this isn't really relevant to what you saw, but I mean, in the pursuit of honesty, I mean, what was it that you took? I mean, was it something of value, or was it just something, goofy?
Well, goofy, but of value. It was allegedly a TV set. So.
Okay.
So we'll leave it at that.
Allegedly.
So that's why there was a little bit more time added to that.
Correct, but it gets worse as I get into the story.
Okay. Now this is where I want to get into. So you're in jail, right. And according to this letter, you found yourself in solitary confinement, right?
Correct. Yeah, I got into a confrontation on Christmas Eve. Two other gentlemen against myself got into a physical altercation, which landed all three of us in segregation. They were sentenced to 5 days apiece, and I got 15 days. I don't know how that's fair. It was 2 against 1. I had to protect myself and do what I had to do. So,
again, in all honesty, I myself have done some time, and I'm very aware of how that works. So,
okay.
But for our listeners, it's a very skewed process, and you're once you're in jail, you're guilty, and you're going to solitary confinement, and you can appeal it while you're sitting there in solitary confinement if you wish. But so you're in solitary confinement, and what happens?
Well, on the 26th of December, 2 days after I was there, they brought back Mr. Robert Taylor. The doors opened for the segregation unit. There was 2 guards basically walking him back, one on each side. Like I used the term in the past, they were basically human canes. If they weren't there, I don't think he would have been able to be standing. He was in bad shape, basically shuffling in. Cell 203 opened. The cell was just freshly mopped. That was actually brought to my attention after the fact. I thought he fell. He actually slipped, hit the concrete, cut his arm when he went down, and he remained there for the duration of at least that day. When I saw him in the past, he was always lying on the floor. Whether he made it to the bunk from there, I don't know. I've heard mixed stories. I can only comment on the position I saw him and what the COs would convey to myself.
Okay, now when he slipped, did they help him up? Did they move him at all? What happened then?
The nurse came down, put a little Band-Aid on his arm. The CO told me it didn't even cover half of the laceration, and they basically left him there. Over the next 10 hours, the CO on duty was radioing down saying, hey, this guy's not getting up off the floor. I need some help for you to come down here and give me assistance. Basically, protocol is once the cell is locked in segregation, a single guard himself cannot open a cell. He needs backup. So therefore, he was radioing for the backup saying, hey, this guy's not getting up off the floor. Come give me a hand. And no one came and gave him a hand. He left at the end of his shift, which is a 12-hour shift, and Mr. Taylor was still there on the floor. No one had come to help him.
And how old? I mean, was he an older gentleman? He was a pretty old gentleman, right?
I was told he was 74, but it was later confirmed he was actually 75.
75. So I mean that's the new 30, I guess, in today's terms. But I mean, it's still definitely an older person. So he slipped. He got hurt. They gave him a Band-Aid for something that probably needed a bandage, and no one came and helped this officer who was calling out to help the old man.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, now he leaves, and he's gone. And what happens? Does the new guard come in and help?
No. From that point stemming forward, the situation went from bad to worse to, I don't even know what's past that point, to life-threatening and just utter disregard and neglect. It was a disgrace that this would happen, let alone happen, in a county jail here in the United States. I'm not one to frequent the system. Like I said, I've had a couple bumps in the road, but I knew this type of behavior, should not take place, and someone should be held accountable. Over the next 5 days, I began noticing, no response from Mr. Taylor when the nurse would come in. She would come in with a push cart 3 times a day, basically with an hour period of each meal to give medication to those who need it. Apparently, Mr. Taylor was on the list. Not once in that 5-day period did Mr. Taylor receive any medication. They would call his name, he would grumble, and they would keep it moving.
Now, it does need to be said that Mr. Taylor, he suffered from alcoholism, right?
That is correct. Yeah, throughout the period, I was trying to gain some information on why he was back there. I knew there was no way in hell that this guy could have committed, something against jail code of conduct, or I knew he wasn't fighting or doing anything of the sort to land back in segregation. So I started asking guards, inquiring, hey, why is he back there? And the general consensus was he didn't do anything wrong at all. He didn't commit any violations. No misappropriations in conduct. Basically, he was sick, alcohol withdrawal. He should have been in the clinic, but due to the lack of manpower and cost-saving measures, they didn't want to tie up a CO to watch him in the clinic, so they just threw him in segregation. He was put in a turtle suit, which is basically a anti-suicide smock. I don't know how he could commit suicide. Like I said, he couldn't even stand. So I guess that was just another backup or justification of why they threw him in cell 203.
Wow. So for 5 days, he's not getting any medication. He missed 15 meals, right? According to your letter?
I was documenting the meals. We have tray slots, basically a flap that opens up like you would have, for your dog in his dog house, and they just place your tray on the slot. You would have to get up, pull this tray in, eat it, and then return it. It's not like it slides through the floor or anything like that. It just sits there about a foot and a half to 2 feet off the ground. I could see from my cell through the double-paned cell door directly to Mr. Taylor's tray slot to my left. I was in 205. He was in 203. And I started documenting the meals which were left there. And I had 15 meals documented that he never ate, never touched. They never even made it off his tray slot.
So now the man's not receiving medication, and he's being non-responsive. He's not eating. Now, was anybody asking him if he was okay or if he needed help, or were any of the COs or even the original CO, had he come back at any point?
He had, yeah, and he was actually a good-hearted human being. Like I said, I'm not going to give his name at this point, but if he were a sergeant or a little bit higher up, I don't believe this ever would have happened, because he did try and show some compassion, but as he told me, his hands were tied. He couldn't do anything, Actually, one time he went against protocol, opened the cell door, walked in, and put the tray directly next to Mr. Taylor, hoping he would eat something.
Oh, wow. Now, according to your letter, there was a Sergeant Nunn, and at one point during one of his rounds said maybe it would just be better for everyone if he just died.
That is correct. Yeah.
And now, did you hear that with your own words or with your own ears?
Yeah. Segregation unit is not a big unit. It's, 20 by 35, 25 by 35. It's 5 cells. There's not a whole lot going on. So you could hear every conversation, every peep that takes place.
Wow. Now, how long did this go on for? You've already gone 5 days now. How long in total before anybody took an actual notice of this man?
Well, by day 2.5, myself, Vontae Skinner, who was next to me, and another gentleman, Jerry Iozia, along with his cellmate, they're the 2 gentlemen I had the altercation with, were kind of saying yo, you got to get this guy out of here. He's got to get to a hospital. He's not heating. He's laying on the floor. The stench was horrific. He was defecating on himself. He was urinating. He couldn't even make it to the toilet. They actually had to roll up a blanket. The COs rolled up a blanket rather than treat the situation. They put another Band-Aid on it, if you will, and put it under his cell door. This way the stench wouldn't come out and bother them through their shift.
Wow. And at one point, according to your letter, they sprayed him with Lysol?
It was more than once. They would spray the room with Lysol, then they would open his cell, douse the room, and close it back up.
That's horrific. So basically they were putting perfume on the corpse.
He wasn't necessarily a corpse at that point, but it was headed in that direction.
Now, at what point did they discover that Mr. Thomas had passed?
Taylor.
Sorry.
No problem. Well, it was the 30th. We had just finished dinner, and all of a sudden, here comes Sergeant Nunn again, making his rounds. I guess after 5 days, he decided, hey, why don't we open the cell and really, we'll check on him, The same CO who was working the first day was actually there on the 5th day as well. The gentleman who was trying to help, and Nunn called for 203 to open, slid open. He walked in, and his quote was, "Oh shit, he's dead."
Wow. How did they react? I almost feel like they would have giggled to themselves at this point from so far everything I've heard you say. How did they react to this? What did they do?
I think at this point they knew it was a reality. They knew they had goofed up. Ignorance is bliss, but I don't know what they thought was going to happen. After 5 days, they think he was just going to hop up and say, hey, everybody, I'm I'm doing well. I'm feeling great. 15 meals have gone by. I haven't ate or drank anything. I haven't taken a shower. No medication, no nothing. I'm all right. I mean, I don't know what kind of training they received or where their mindset was, but no, they were panicking. They were panicking at this point. They knew they goofed up. They wish they could have backpedaled, but it was too late. He instructed the nurses to come down. The one nurse right off the bat looked at him and said, I'm not giving him CPR. None then instructed him to go get a defibrillator. That took quite some time, 5 to 10 minutes. Thank goodness it was not a dire emergency because, they were in no hurry to save him at that point. So they hook up the defibrillator. It's going through prompts. Now they're deciding, should we take him to the hospital? I don't know. Don't you have training for this type of, situation?
Isn't this something that you're supposed to be prepared for because it's a big possibility when you have that many people confined to small spaces?
You would think. So some more time goes by and they're saying, well, go get the vehicle. Then they said, let's just call the paramedics. Another 5 to 10 minutes come by. The paramedics get there. They run in, because that's what they do. They're there to save people, and they automatically look at the nursing staff along with the CEOs and say, you can stop now, referring to them as a defibrillator. He's dead. Like, he's been dead for a while now. I heard the one say rigor mortis had set in, which, could be 2 to 3 hours. And that was basically it. I started yelling at that point through my cell door because there was an outside law enforcement agency there, Mount Holly Police, along with the paramedics. I was stating, you killed him. You left him in there to rot. You didn't help him. How do you feel now? 15 meals, 5 days. What did you think was going to happen? They then told me to keep my mouth shut or they were going to break my jaw. Then none said, get him out of here, referring to me. They opened up my cell door and brought me out of there immediately, prior to the prosecutor's office and everyone else getting there.
Now, before I get into what happened to you after this, because I'm sure it's gotta not end there, I do want to note that according to your letter, on the 29th of December, which is the day before you say they discovered that he had passed, you clearly heard Mr. Taylor beg for help, and that you personally begged for help as well, but you were told to shut up.
Yeah. Me asking for help for him was ongoing. The other inmates back there asking for help for him was continuous. At one point I said, look, this guy's got to eat. Why don't you just put me in his cell with him if it's too much trouble for you guys, and I'll take care of him. And they began saying, you don't want to go in there. It smells like this and that. And I said, look, that's not a big deal to me. You know what I mean? The situation's bad. I need to take care of this guy. If you're not going to do it, I'll do it. And they refused, stating that since he was in a suicidal, situation, he couldn't be in there with anyone else, which, once again, was complete lies and fallacy just to cover their own tracks or keep him in there. The day before, he was saying, help me in a low whisper. And then they were saying, Mr. Taylor, what can we do for you? That was their response. And I said, what can you do for him? You need to get him out of here. Get him to a hospital. But they didn't do anything.
Now, okay, so bringing us back to the point in the story where they removed you, I'm going to assume that there was some repercussions in there for you being so vocal.
At this point, there really wasn't any repercussions. They brought me to a different wing, which was A215. That's like the workers' unit. I was kept up there for 3 days. And then I went back to segregation once, I guess, the crime scene was cleared out. And the one day, they said my toilet was clogged, so I couldn't go in that cell. So they put me in cell 203, which was the cell where Robert Taylor died. So I don't know if that was a repercussion. I don't know if they were, retaliating against me at that point, psychologically, or if it was just luck of the draw. But being that there was other cells open and I could have, been placed in one of those, I did take that as,
A subtle threat or promise, if you will.
A form of mistreatment, yes.
Wow. Now, what do we do to help, man? You know, I mean, what do we do now? Like, I know, you're putting together like a packet of sort for media outlets and stuff. What have you done anything on a legal front?
I'm waiting to hear back from a couple big shot attorneys, if you will, downtown civil rights attorneys and stuff like that. So, I should have some direct representation hopefully this week because I plan on filing something. In addition to that, you know, the story definitely has legs at this point. The Trentonians done a fantastic job. It's going to be in the Inquirer tomorrow. A couple other publications picked it up. But I think we need direct action. I think we need to hold those accountable. Stories are just that. They're stories. We could sit around and read them all day, but unless we do something or urge those with the power to do something, nothing is going to get done. Here in New Jersey, we have the freeholders. They're the overseers of what takes place in the county. I went to the meeting the other night. A citizen stood up advocating on behalf of the homeless. He, you know, wants a private investigation done, which we all think should happen. 101.5 said, you know, this needs to be investigated by the Attorney General because the prosecutor obviously is not in his interest to, you know, bring down the jail. I mean, they're the same people he's trying to put away.
Yeah.
So we need to go outside the county. In addition, I think the warden needs to go. He needs to be held accountable from the start and put on leave, at least pending an investigation. But at this point, he needs to get out of there. So I'm urging people starting tomorrow. I was fronting a 2-week campaign, a vigorous campaign every day to write and call the freeholders of Burlington County, New Jersey, to demand that Warden Lawrence Artis is removed immediately, pending investigation.
So, right, the thing that you're asking for people immediately is starting tomorrow to start putting pressure on these political figures that can at the very least get these people out of their positions.
That's correct.
And then your long-term goal for activism is to bring these people up on charges?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know, this is no longer a fight, it's nuclear war, and I'm in it till the end. You know, starting with Warden Artis all the way down to Captain Larkins, a lot of people have to be held responsible, including the outside medical company. They were not state employees; they were an outside company, so they should be, you know, held responsible as well.
Wow, and I mean, and this is so indicative of the lack of responsibility in positions of power that we're seeing today, where there is one standard of rules for one costume class and another standard of rules for us, and it's really sad. And I'm sorry. Did he have family? Is there anybody that is survived by him?
I know he had an ex-wife. I was told he might have a brother. At this point, we're trying to go through the next of kin. I've been talking to the attorney assigned to Mr. Robert Tower at this point. I have a couple things in the works if there is not next of kin to make sure you know, he's given a proper burial and doesn't end up in Potter's Field. So I'm working alongside with the attorney now, and if he does not have next of kin, I'm going to come forth and, you know, make arrangements to do something in the proper fashion.
That is admirable, sir. And I'm also sorry that, you know, that you couldn't do more, that you weren't able to save his life. I know that probably weighs heavily upon you, having to sit 15 feet from him. Yeah,
it definitely weighs heavy, but hopefully, you know, the death of Robert Tower will bring about social awareness, and it'll save lives in the future, you know?
Sean, thank you so much for coming on and telling us this story, man. I am glad that Tripp wasn't able to make it, because I'm really glad I got to sit through this whole thing. Matthew, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, Sean, is there like a Facebook page or something where people can go to show their support, get involved, ask questions, or anything like that?
At this point, I haven't been able to put anything formally together. I've only been home since the 5th. I've been working, vigorously on this from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep, all day, every day. So people could just contact me directly. My full name, Sean, S-E-A-N. My nickname, T-U-R-K, and last name, Turzansky, T-U-R-Z-A-N-S-K-I, and that's on Facebook. Or Sean, S-E-A-N-T-U-R-K-M-A-N @gmail.com.
Awesome, guys. Make sure you get in touch with him, and if you feel, help, and in any way that you can help out, please get in touch with him. Or get in touch with us over here at Post Politics and Journalistic Revolution, and we'll get you in touch with him. Thank you, Sean. Is there anything else you'd like to say in closing before, we go to break?
Well, I know we're pressed for time. I just want to say after I went back, there was a lot of repercussions against myself. Keep in mind that was only the 30th of December. So from then on, when I began doing my writing, there was a lot of repercussions, things that should have never happened, as a violation just of merely freedom of speech or trying to bring down those who were committing injustice within. I want to say thank you to Ed Fortune, New Jersey Weed Man. Without Ed, this message would have never got out. Ed is actually the one who carried my letter out to the public and got it out there to the voices. So thanks, Ed. I know you're listening, brother. Thanks to all those who supported me thus far. Terry Stern, Georgina Shanley, and the list goes on. The Libertarian Party. Like I said, we have some great backing, some great support. Let's keep it going, guys. And I want to give another acknowledgement to Jerry Iozia. He was actually the witness back there in cell 203, my adversary who I got in a fight with. Jerry witnessed the demise of Robert Taylor, and Jerry actually died in Burlington County Jail on February 25th. He was the second death in there within 2 months, which is appalling. So 2 deaths, 2 months. Something's got to be done.
Wow. Thanks. And also, I do want to point out that NJ Weeman just posted in the chat room, and any listeners who aren't, who are listening through the TuneIn app or through Shoutcast, it is at, well, you know what? Go to Journalistic Revolution on the Facebook page. I'm going to post that on the Journalistic Revolution Facebook page. Get over there, and basically, it's a call for a state attorney general investigation, and we can do what we can. Thanks again, Sean, for coming on with us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Definitely.
All right.
Holy
Wow.
crap, dude. That's insane.